Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
I was sent to erase her memory, but she remembered my touch. They said she couldn't keep secrets if she loved me. They were wrong. She never forgot. And now, neither can I. The memory erasure chambers of Neurobright Corp were always kept at precisely 19.4 degrees Celsius, cold enough to keep the neural mapping equipment functioning optimally, but not so frigid that patients would shiver during procedures. I had worked there for 6 years and still hadn't grown accustomed to the perpetual chill. "Vaylen, your 1400 hours is here," chirped the facility AI through my neural implant. "Assignment code, Prisma 7. I sighed, placing my half-eaten synthetic apple back in its biodegradable container. Prisma 7 meant a high-clearance wipe. Government work. No questions asked, no records kept beyond the mandatory neural backup we maintained for 3 days. Then atomized. "Send them to Chamber 3, I replied mentally. "I'll be there in 2 minutes. I grabbed my white lab coat, standard uniform for memory technicians, and strode down the sterile corridor. The fluorescent strips embedded in the ceiling pulsed subtly, guiding me toward Chamber 3. Not that I needed guidance. I could navigate Neurobright blindfolded after all these years. The doors slid open silently, revealing a woman seated in the reclining procedural chair. Even from behind, I could tell she sat unnaturally straight, as though her spine had been replaced with steel. Her hair was a deep auburn, twisted into an elaborate knot at the nape of her neck, too artful for someone about to undergo memory erasure. "Good afternoon," I said, putting on my professional voice as I circled around to face her. "I'm technician Vaylen Korba. I'll be conducting your procedure today." When her eyes met mine, something inside me stuttered. They were a startling shade of gold-flecked amber, with a directness that felt almost confrontational. "Elori Vashti," she replied, offering nothing else. No pleasantries, no nervous questions about the procedure. Just her name, delivered with quiet certainty. I glanced at my tablet, searching for any information about this Elori Vashti, but Prisma 7 files were intentionally sparse. Female, 32, government security clearance level 9. Required erasure, last 72 hours of memory. Reason for erasure classified. "Very well, Ms. Vashti. Before we begin, I need to confirm you've read and understood the consent form sent to your neural interface." "I have, and you understand that while we target specific memory clusters, there's always a small risk of adjacent memory disturbance?" Her mouth curved into what might have been a smile, though it didn't reach those remarkable eyes. "I'm well aware of the risks, Technician Korba. This isn't my first erasure." That explained her composure. Memory erasure veterans were rare. Most people came to us only once or twice in their lives, usually to remove traumatic experiences. But occasionally we had repeat visitors, typically government operatives, corporate spies, or the extraordinarily wealthy who used our services to eliminate memories of indiscretions. I approached with the neural mapper, a delicate crown of sensors that would locate precisely which clusters to target. "This will feel slightly cold," I warned as I placed it on her head, careful not to disturb her immaculate hair. As my fingers brushed against her temple, she inhaled sharply. Our eyes met again, and for a moment, I felt an odd sense of recognition, like déjà vu, but sharper, more defined. Impossible, of course. I'd never met this woman before. "Your neural architecture is unusual," I remarked, studying the preliminary scan appearing on my display. "Very organized. Most minds have more chaos." "I've been told I have exceptional neural plasticity," she replied. "It helps in my line of work." "Which is classified, of course." Her voice carried the slightest hint of amusement. "Isn't that why I'm here?" I nodded, focusing on the scan. "We'll need to do a deeper mapping before proceeding. The 72-hour erasure window is quite precise. It will take about 15 minutes of scanning before the actual procedure." "Take your time, technician. I'm in no rush." I initiated the full neural mapping sequence and moved to my workstation a few feet away. The process was largely automated, but I monitored the progress, watching as Elori Vashti's neural pathways appeared on my screen, glowing webs of memory and thought. "You're different from the other technicians," she said suddenly. I looked up, surprised. How so? You don't wear neural dampeners during procedures. She nodded toward my bare wrists, where most technicians wore protective bands to prevent emotional transference during intimate memory work. Bold choice. I find they interfere with my precision, I replied, unsettled that she had noticed such a detail. Most patients were too nervous to observe their technicians so carefully. The emotional echo is minimal if you maintain proper mental discipline. Is that what they taught you in memory school? A faint smile played on her lips. Neurocartographic Institute at New Singapore, I corrected. And yes, among other things. Her eyes closed briefly. Beautiful city, though I prefer the old ruins of what used to be Bangkok. There's something haunting about places where memories have outlived the people who made them. I found myself intrigued despite my professional detachment. You've traveled extensively. Memory is geography, Technician Korba. Each place leaves its mark on you, just as surely as each person does. The scanner beeped, indicating it had completed the preliminary mapping. I studied the results with a frown. There's significant encryption in your temporal lobe. Military-grade neural security. Yes, you'll need this. She reached into her pocket and handed me a small obsidian chip. Temporary decryption key. It will dissolve after use. I inserted the chip into my console, watching as new neural pathways became visible. What I saw made me pause. These memories, they're unusually vivid, almost reinforced. Is that a problem? No, I said slowly. But it will require more precision than standard erasures. I'll need to personally guide the targeting rather than letting the automated system handle it. She nodded as if this wasn't news to her. I trust you have the necessary skill. As I prepared the memory dissolution serum, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about this procedure felt wrong. Not medically, everything was technically within parameters, but something else, something I couldn't quite identify. Ready to proceed? I asked, approaching with the neural injection system. Almost. She reached out suddenly, her fingertips brushing against my hand. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through me. Vaylen, have you ever wondered if some memories are meant to persist? Even when they're dangerous? I withdrew my hand, unsettled by both her touch and the use of my first name. That's not for me to decide. I'm just the technician. Of course. She closed her eyes and leaned back. I'm ready now. I administered the serum, watching as it flowed through the delivery tubes and into the neural crown. Within moments, Elori Vashti's brainwaves began to shift, entering the malleable state where memory extraction became possible. Beginning targeted memory dissolution, I announced, more for the record than for her benefit. 72-hour window, beginning at 14:07 3 days ago. As I directed the erasure beam through her neural landscape, I felt that strange sensation again. Recognition, familiarity. Her memories began appearing on my screen as they were extracted. A high-rise apartment with a view of artificial mountains. A confidential meeting in a secure facility. A crowded market where she spoke with a man whose face was purposely blurred. Standard procedure was to view only enough to confirm proper targeting. We weren't supposed to watch the memories themselves. But as I worked, one image appeared that stopped me cold. Me. It was unmistakably me, standing in an apartment I'd never seen, smiling in a way I rarely did. The timestamp, 47 hours ago. Impossible. I had never met this woman before today. I nearly halted the procedure but caught myself. Interrupting mid-erasure could cause catastrophic neural damage. I had to continue, even as more images of myself appeared in her memory stream. Talking earnestly, laughing, touching her face with evident tenderness. These couldn't be genuine memories. They had to be fabrications, implants, or some kind of test. When the procedure finished, I removed the neural crown with shaking hands. Elori Vashti's eyes fluttered open, displaying momentary confusion. The normal response after erasure. The procedure is complete, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. You'll experience mild disorientation for about 20 minutes. Standard protocol is to remain here until it passes. She blinked, focusing on my face. According to all scientific understanding of memory erasure, I should now be a stranger to her. The memories I'd seen, real or fabricated, were gone from her mind. Thank you, technician. She paused, scanning my identification badge. Korba. Was the procedure successful? Completely? I lied, my mind racing. Those memories of me, they were gone from her mind, but now existed in mine. Evidence of something impossible. How do you feel? Like I've lost something, she said, then smiled faintly. But that's always how it feels, isn't it? I helped her to the recovery area, my professional mask firmly in place despite my internal turmoil. As she prepared to leave, she paused at the door. Vaylen, she said softly. My blood froze. I hadn't told her my first name after the procedure. Her amber eyes met mine with perfect clarity. Some memories can't be erased. Remember that. Before I could respond, she was gone. Couldn't sleep that night. Memories that weren't mine yet featured me played on endless loop behind my eyelids whenever I tried to close them. I saw myself in places I'd never been, doing things I had no recollection of. And always with her, Elori Vashti, looking at me with those amber eyes that seemed to hold secrets I couldn't begin to understand. By 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and accessed Neurobright's secure database from my apartment terminal. Prisma 7 files were supposed to be inaccessible, but I had learned certain workarounds over the years. Not that I had ever used them until now. Nothing. Elori Vashti's entire file had been purged, not just classified. Even the mandatory neural backup was gone, hours before the standard 3-day holding period. Computer, search public databases for Elori Vashti. I commanded. No results found, came the placid reply. This wasn't unusual for high-security operatives, who often maintained scrubbed public profiles. But combined with everything else, it deepened my unease. I dressed quickly and headed for the door. I needed air, space to think without the confines of my apartment's walls pressing in on me. The night air of New Cascadia hit me like a physical force as I stepped outside, cool, damp, heavy with the scent of artificial pine from the atmospheric processors. The city never truly slept. Even at this hour, transit pods hummed overhead, and holographic advertisements flickered on the sides of buildings. I walked aimlessly, letting my feet carry me while my mind churned. Memory is geography, she had said. Each place leaves its mark. I found myself in the downtown district, surrounded by soaring architecture that blended the organic with the technological, living buildings with neural networks of their own, responding to the needs of their inhabitants. One structure in particular caught my eye, a residential tower with a distinctive spiral design, glowing softly blue against the night sky. I had seen it before in her memories. The high-rise apartment with artificial mountains visible through the window. Without conscious decision, I approached the building's entrance. The security AI scanned me automatically. Good evening. Please state your business. I'm looking for Elori Vashti's apartment, I said, surprising myself with my directness. No resident by that name, the AI replied. Would you like to try another query? Of course. She wouldn't use her real name in residential listings if she worked in classified operations. As I turned to leave, a man emerged from the building, middle-aged, wearing the uniform of a maintenance worker. He nodded politely as he passed me, and something clicked in my mind, a fragment of her memory. This same man, his face not blurred like the other, accepting what appeared to be a generous tip from Elori's hand. Excuse me, I called after him. Do you work here regularly? He paused, obviously wary. Who's asking? I made a quick calculation and took a risk. I'm looking for my friend. Tall woman, auburn hair, amber eyes. She lives in this building, but I've forgotten her apartment number. His expression remained guarded, but recognition flickered in his eyes. You mean Ms. Aveline in 3307? The one with the fancy tea collection. Aveline. An alias, obviously, but now I had a location. That's her, I confirmed. I was supposed to return something to her. Well, you're out of luck tonight. Saw her leaving with luggage yesterday afternoon. Looked like she was going away for a while. I thanked him and walked away, my mind racing with new questions. She had left immediately after the procedure, which meant whatever operation had required her memories to be erased was likely concluded. Or perhaps she had fled because the erasure hadn't worked as intended, because she had remembered my name. I returned to my apartment and spent the remaining hours until dawn searching for any information about an Aveline, matching Elori's description. Nothing turned up. Dawn found me exhausted but no less determined to understand what was happening. My comm unit chimed as I was preparing for work. The caller ID showed only a secure government designation. "Technician Korba," said a crisp, emotionless voice when I answered. "This is oversight. Your presence is required at Central Administrative Division immediately." My stomach dropped. "May I ask what this concerns?" "Security Protocol 5 to 16 has been activated regarding your Prisma 7 assignment yesterday. Transport is waiting outside your residence." The call disconnected before I could respond. Protocol 5 to 16, I had never heard of it, but anything with security protocol in the title couldn't be good. Had they somehow detected my database search? Or was this about the impossible memories I had witnessed? A sleek black transport vehicle hovered outside my building when I exited. Its doors opened silently in invitation. I had no choice but to enter. The journey to Central Administrative Division took 20 minutes, during which the vehicle's windows remained opaque, preventing me from seeing our route. When we arrived, I was escorted through a series of security checkpoints, each more stringent than the last. My neural implant was temporarily disabled, a procedure usually reserved for national security threats. Finally, I was led into a sparse interrogation room containing only a table and 2 chairs. I sat in the one clearly intended for me and waited, fighting to maintain my composure. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the door opened. A tall, silver-haired woman entered, wearing the distinctive charcoal uniform of internal security. No identification was visible. "Technician Korba," she said, taking the seat opposite me. "I am Director Nyara. What I am about to tell you is classified at the highest level. If you repeat it, you will be charged with treason." I swallowed hard. "I understand. Yesterday, you performed a memory erasure on an operative codenamed Prisma. This was not her first erasure. It was her 17th. I couldn't hide my shock. 17 erasures would put unimaginable strain on a neural system. Prisma is unique," Director Nyara continued. "She possesses a genetic anomaly that allows her neural tissue to regenerate at an accelerated rate. This makes her invaluable for certain specialized operations where memory security is paramount." "What does this have to do with me?" I asked, though I was beginning to suspect. The director's expression remained impassive. 3 days ago, Prisma was assigned to infiltrate a research facility developing illegal memory augmentation technology. During this operation, she was captured and subjected to experimental memory reinforcement procedures before our extraction team could retrieve her. The vivid memories I observed during the erasure, I realized aloud. Precisely. These memories were artificially strengthened to resist standard erasure protocols, which is why you were specifically selected to perform the procedure. "Me? Why?" Director Nyara tapped a sequence on the table, and a holographic file appeared between us. My personnel file, but with sections I had never seen before: genetic markers, neural compatibility ratings, psychological profiles far more detailed than standard employment screening. "You possess an exceptionally rare neural configuration, Technician Korba. One that makes your erasure techniques particularly effective against reinforced memories." She paused. "You were not randomly assigned to Neurobright. You have been under observation your entire career for precisely this eventuality." The revelation left me speechless. My entire professional life. A setup? "However," she continued, "something has gone wrong. Prisma has disappeared. Her neural tracker went offline shortly after leaving your facility, and our monitoring systems indicate she may have retained memories that should have been erased." "That's impossible," I said automatically, even as I recalled Elori saying my name after the procedure. "The erasure was successful, was it?" Director Nyara leaned forward. "Or did you witness something during the procedure that you failed to report?" I knew I was walking into dangerous territory, but I couldn't see a way around the truth. I saw memories featuring myself, interactions that never happened. Instead of surprise, the director nodded as if confirming a suspicion. "That was the trap. I don't understand. The memory reinforcement technology has evolved. It can now create false memories so convincing that even trained technicians cannot distinguish them from genuine ones. memories designed to forge artificial connections with specifically targeted individuals. Me, I said, the implications dawning horrifically. I was the target? Why? Because of your unique abilities. The organization behind this technology wants to compromise our most effective memory technicians. If they can manipulate you, make you question the erasures you perform, they undermine our entire security apparatus. It was a logical explanation. Almost too logical. What happens now? I asked. You will be placed on administrative leave while we conduct a thorough neural security assessment. If you are cleared, you will resume your duties under enhanced monitoring. And Prisma? Something flickered in Director Nyara's eyes. She will be located and contained. Her knowledge, combined with her condition, makes her too valuable to remain at large. I was escorted home with instructions not to leave the city and to report for neural evaluation the following morning. My implant remained deactivated, leaving me feeling strangely disconnected from the information grid that usually hummed in the background of my consciousness. Alone in my apartment, I replayed the conversation with Director Nyara. Everything she had said made rational sense. Yet something felt wrong, the same indefinable wrongness I had sensed during Elori's procedure. I moved to my window, gazing out at the city skyline as twilight descended. If what Nyara said was true, then the memories I had seen were fabrications, designed to create an artificial bond between me and Elori Vashti. A sophisticated attack on Neurobright's security systems. Yet those memories had felt authentic in a way that artificial constructs rarely achieved. The emotion in them seemed genuine, not just Elori's feelings, but my own expressions, captured from an outside perspective. My door chimed unexpectedly. I approached cautiously, activating the security display. The corridor outside was empty. I opened the door and found a small package on the threshold. Plain, unmarked, no delivery information. Inside was a single object, an antique paper book, its cover worn with age. The Geography of Memory, by an author whose name had faded beyond recognition. A bookmark protruded from between the pages. I opened to the marked passage and read, "The truth about memory is not that it preserves the past, but that it creates the present. What we remember shapes who we are more fundamentally than what actually happened." Something fell from between the pages, a small, translucent memory chip, the kind used for secure personal storage. And a handwritten note on actual paper. Some memories can't be erased. Some shouldn't be. If you want the truth, come to where the mountains meet the sky. You'll know the place even if you don't remember it. Mountains meeting the sky. The artificial mountains visible from her apartment window? No, those were urban creations nowhere near the horizon. Then I remembered the background image on my neural mapping console. A customized setting I had chosen years ago. A mountain range silhouetted against an evening sky. Elori had seen it during her procedure. I inserted the memory chip into my personal reader, bypassing the security warnings. A single file appeared, labeled simply, "Us." When I opened it, images flooded my mind. Not like watching a video, but like experiencing memories. My memories, ones I couldn't recall making. Meeting Elori 6 months ago during another Prisma procedure. Our cautious conversations afterward, as I struggled with the ethical implications of contacting a former patient. The gradual revelation of who she really was, not just a government operative, but part of a resistance movement working against increasingly invasive memory control programs. The truth about my unique neural configuration. Not a gift, but the result of experimental procedures performed on me as a child, procedures I had been made to forget. Our plan to use her scheduled memory erasure as cover while we extracted critical information from Neurobright's secure servers. The realization that we were being watched, that our plan had been compromised. Our desperate contingency, embedding our real memories beneath layers of artificial ones, creating a neural pathway that could survive erasure by using my own neural signature as the key. The final memory, Elori's voice, urgent and intense. "If something goes wrong, if they catch me, you have to proceed with the erasure exactly as planned. Make it look perfect. But when you touch me, when our neural patterns align, it will protect the core memories. I'll forget details, but I'll remember you. I'll remember us. And that will be enough to find my way back. I sat in stunned silence as the implications washed over me. If these were truly my memories, then everything I thought I knew about my life was a construction. If they were fabrications, then I was being manipulated in ways more profound than Director Nyara had suggested. Either way, I couldn't stay here. Whether Elori Vashti was my enemy or my ally, she held answers I desperately needed. I packed quickly, taking only essentials and the book she had sent. Before leaving, I dislodged my neural implant completely. It would be reactivated during tomorrow's evaluation, allowing them to track me. The removal was painful, leaving a small wound at the base of my skull, but it was necessary. As I slipped out of my apartment, I knew I was crossing a line from which there would be no return. If Nyara was telling the truth, I was falling into a trap set by enemies of the state. If Elori's memories were real, then I was fleeing the true threat. The old ruins of what used to be Bangkok. That's where she would go. A place where memories outlived the people who made them. A place we had supposedly visited together, in memories I couldn't recall making. The ruins of old Bangkok sprawled across the floodplains like the skeleton of some massive, forgotten creature. Once a thriving metropolis of millions, it had been largely abandoned after the Great Inundation of 2097, its population relocating to the new elevated cities built on the surrounding highlands. Now, it was a maze of partially submerged structures, some still bearing the faded remnants of once vibrant colors. Vegetation had reclaimed much of the city, with vines and roots breaking through concrete and twisting around steel frameworks that refused to surrender completely to time and water. I arrived as the sun was setting, painting the ruins in hues of orange and gold. The public transport terminal was located on the outer edges of the old city, catering primarily to the small community of researchers and the steady stream of tourists who came to witness what happened when humanity withdrew and left its creations to nature. Having disabled my neural implant, I had navigated here using old-fashioned methods, physical maps and verbal directions from strangers. It felt disorienting to be disconnected from the information grid, like losing a sense I had always taken for granted. "First time in the ruins?" asked the local guide who approached me as I studied a weathered directional sign. She was elderly, with intricate facial tattoos that marked her as one of the few thousand people who had refused evacuation, choosing to adapt to the new reality of the partially submerged city. "Yes," I replied, then hesitated. If Elori's implanted memories were genuine, that might not be true. "At least, I think so." The woman's eyes narrowed slightly. "Ah, a memory tourist. We get more of you every year." "Memory tourist?" "People who come because they've had memories erased, looking for places that might trigger recognition." She shrugged. "The mind remembers even when it forgets, you know. Places have power. Memory is geography." Elori's words echoed in my mind. "I'm looking for a place where mountains meet the sky," I said. "Does that mean anything to you?" The old woman's face split into a knowing smile. "The Temple of Dawn. What remains of it. The only place in old Bangkok where you can see the mountains on the horizon. Your friend said you might come asking." My heart raced. "My friend? Auburn hair, amber eyes. She paid well for me to watch for you. Said you'd be confused, maybe frightened. Said to tell you that the touch remains even when the memory fades." The guide pointed down a partially flooded street. "Follow the elevated path. When you reach the fork, take the eastern route. You'll find the temple, and perhaps your memories." I thanked her and set off, moving carefully along the raised walkways that connected the still accessible parts of the ruins. The air was heavy with moisture and the scent of lush vegetation. In the distance, I could hear the automated conservation drones buzzing as they monitored water quality and structural integrity throughout the ruins. As I walked, flashes of familiarity struck me. Not fully formed memories, but sensations. The way the evening light filtered through a particular collapsed building. The sound of water lapping against concrete. The distinctive silhouette of a twisted metal sculpture that had once been a public art installation. Had I been here before? Or was my mind creating false recognition based on Elori's implanted memories? The Temple of Dawn came into view as I rounded a corner. A once magnificent structure now partially submerged, its remaining spires reaching defiantly toward the sky. True to the guide's word, The mountain range was visible on the horizon beyond it, creating the illusion that the temple's peaks merged with the mountains. I approached cautiously, scanning for any sign of surveillance. The few tourists I had passed earlier had thinned out. This area seemed largely deserted as evening descended. The temple entrance was elevated above the water level, accessible by a series of stone steps. As I climbed, a sensation of déjà vu washed over me so powerfully that I had to pause, gripping the ancient railing for support. I had been here before, not just in implanted memories but physically. I knew without looking that the third step from the top had a crack running diagonally across its surface. I knew that inside, to the right of the main chamber, there would be a small alcove where the evening light created a perfect geometric pattern on the floor. Memories awakening, Vaylen? The voice came from above. Elori stood at the top of the steps, silhouetted against the deepening twilight. She wore simple clothing, practical for the environment, her auburn hair loose around her shoulders rather than in its former immaculate arrangement. Are they memories or implants? I countered, continuing my ascent. Director Nyara told me about the memory reinforcement technology, how it creates false connections. And you came anyway. There was a hint of satisfaction in her voice, which means some part of you doubts her explanation. I reached the top step, standing face to face with her. This close, I could see the fatigue etched around her eyes, the tension in her posture. I need to know the truth, I said simply. She nodded. Truth is a luxury in our line of work. But yes, you deserve it. She gestured toward the temple interior. Come. It's safer inside, away from scanning drones. I followed her through the main entrance into a vast chamber where patches of evening sky were visible through sections of collapsed roof. The air inside was cooler, with a hushed quality that seemed to absorb sound. This was our meeting place, she said, moving toward a small altar that had somehow survived the decades of abandonment. After the first time you performed my erasure procedure. The first time being? 8 months ago. But that wasn't our first encounter. She turned to face me fully. Nyara wasn't entirely lying. You do have a unique neural configuration. But it wasn't a genetic lottery. It was deliberately created. Created how? Project Mnemosyne, a classified program dating back 20 years, focused on developing memory technicians with enhanced capabilities. Children with specific neural plasticity markers were identified and subjected to procedures that restructured their memory centers. Most subjects didn't survive with their minds intact. You were one of the few successes. The revelation should have shocked me, but instead, it resonated with a truth I had somehow always known yet never acknowledged. They erased my memories of the procedures, I said, the realization dawning. Made me believe I had a normal childhood before attending the Neurocartographic Institute. Yes, and they've continued periodic maintenance erasures throughout your adult life, disguised as routine neural health assessments. She reached into a hidden compartment in the altar and withdrew a small device. This is a neural resonance scanner. It can detect the signature of artificial memory barriers. I hesitated only briefly before nodding my consent. She passed the device over my head, and it emitted a series of soft tones. 14 distinct erasure patterns, she announced, looking at the readout. The oldest dating back approximately 20 years. How do you know all this? I asked, struggling to process the implications. Because I was part of it. Her expression darkened with what appeared to be genuine remorse. Not Project Mnemosyne itself, I was a child myself then. But later, as an operative for internal security, I was assigned to monitor several of the subjects who had been integrated into society. You were one of my assignments. You were spying on me? The betrayal stung, even though logically I knew I couldn't trust these emotions that might be based on artificial memories. Initially, yes. But the more I learned about what had been done to you, to all the subjects, the more I questioned my loyalties. She set the scanner down and moved closer to me. 3 years ago, I joined the memory sovereignty movement. We believe that memory control has become the ultimate form of government oppression. That each person's memories should be inviolable, even when national security is invoked. And you recruited me? I asked, still uncertain how much to believe. Not exactly. A sad smile crossed her face. I approached you in my official capacity, arranged for you to be assigned to one of my erasure procedures. During that procedure, I deliberately allowed some of my genuine memories to remain intact, memories of what I had discovered about Project Mnemosyne, about you. Why would you take such a risk? Because I needed you to trust me, and I knew words alone wouldn't be enough. I needed you to see the truth for yourself, through direct neural connection during the procedure. She touched her temple. Memory technicians leave neural fingerprints when they work. I could feel yours, compassionate, meticulous, conflicted about the work you were doing even though you didn't consciously know why. The explanation aligned with the emotional resonance I had felt during her procedure yesterday. That sense of recognition that had disturbed me so deeply. After that first procedure, she continued, I found ways to contact you. Gradually, over several meetings, I helped you recover fragments of your original memories. But each time we made progress, they would detect the changes in your neural patterns and schedule another health assessment. Another erasure. So we've been through this cycle before? Me forgetting you. You helping me remember. She nodded. 3 complete cycles. Each time, we developed better methods of preserving core memories through their erasures. The book I sent you, it was your idea. Literature creates emotional pathways that can survive memory wipes because they're stored differently than experiential memories. I thought of the book now in my pack. The Geography of Memory. Your favorite passage, she confirmed. You said it helped you understand what was happening to you, even before you fully remembered. I moved toward one of the open sections of roof, gazing out at the mountains now silhouetted against the darkening sky. If what she was saying was true, then my entire adult life had been a carefully constructed prison. One without visible bars, but a prison nonetheless. Yesterday's procedure, I said, turning back to her. You knew they were watching us. You deliberately let yourself be captured during your mission. Yes, because we finally had what we needed. She reached into her pocket and withdrew another memory chip, similar to the one she had left with the book but larger, more sophisticated. Complete schematics of Project Mnemosyne, names of all subjects still living, and most importantly, the neural key that can unlock the artificial memory barriers without causing psychological damage. You risked erasure for this? I asked, staring at the small chip that contained so much potential freedom. It was worth the risk. She stepped closer. But I had to ensure the information would survive even if my memories didn't. That's why I created those reinforced memories of us together, not as a trap, but as an anchor. Something so emotionally powerful that it might survive even the most thorough erasure. The memories I saw during your procedure, I said slowly, they weren't completely fabricated, were they? They were based on real interactions, enhanced and intensified, but yes, real at their core. Her amber eyes held mine steadily. What we feel for each other isn't artificial, Vaylen. It developed naturally over months of working together, fighting together. The memory manipulation only preserved what already existed. I wanted desperately to believe her, yet doubt lingered. If what you're saying is true, why would Director Nyara tell me about the memory reinforcement technology? Why not just erase my memories of yesterday's procedure and start fresh? Because they're getting desperate. The memory sovereignty movement has been gaining momentum. More people are questioning why the government needs such extensive control over personal memories. She gestured at the chip. With this information, we can prove the existence of Project Mnemosyne. Show how they've been experimenting on citizens without consent for decades. But if they're so desperate, why am I still alive? Why not just eliminate me? Because your neural architecture is still valuable to them. Too valuable to destroy. Her expression softened. And because I made certain arrangements before yesterday's procedure. Insurance, you might say. What kind of insurance? I embedded a neural trigger in my own mind, one that would activate if I died or underwent another erasure within 7 days. It would automatically release everything we've discovered to major media outlets worldwide. A grim smile played across her lips. They won't risk it. Not yet, anyway. They're hoping to find me and perform a more controlled erasure that would remove the trigger. Night had fallen completely now, leaving the temple interior illuminated only by the soft glow of bioluminescent plants that had colonized the walls. Another innovation of the post-inundation world. providing natural light to abandoned structures. I studied Elori's face in the gentle blue-green glow, searching for any sign of deception. But all I saw was exhaustion, determination, and something that looked remarkably like affection. "I want to remember," I said finally. "If what you're saying is true, I want my memories back." Relief washed across her features. "I was hoping you'd say that." She held up the chip. "This contains the neural key. It can begin dissolving the artificial barriers. But the process isn't instantaneous. And it's not without risk." "What kind of risk?" "Memory recovery can be overwhelming. Years of suppressed experiences suddenly becoming accessible. It can cause disorientation, emotional upheaval, even temporary personality fragmentation." I considered this. If she was manipulating me, this could be the perfect trap, rendering me psychologically vulnerable at a critical moment. If she was telling the truth, it was my only chance at reclaiming my authentic self. "How will I know what memories are real?" I asked. "If they've been manipulating my mind for years, how can I trust anything I remember?" "You can't, not initially," she admitted. "That's why I'm here, to help you contextualize, to fill in gaps. I've been through this with you before." I gazed around the ancient temple, thinking about what it represented. A structure that had endured despite nature's attempts to reclaim it, like memories that persisted despite systematic erasure. "How do we do this?" I asked. She led me to a small side chamber where she had established a temporary shelter, sleeping mat, provisions, and a portable medical kit. From this kit, she removed a neural interface device, more sophisticated than the standard models used at Neurobright. "This will establish a direct neural connection between us," she explained, preparing the device. "My memories can help guide yours as they resurface. It creates a form of shared consciousness, temporary, but intimate." The word intimate sent an unexpected tremor through me. "We've done this before?" "Several times. It's how we preserved core memory fragments through the erasures." She hesitated. "The process creates a powerful connection. More than just shared thoughts, shared emotions, sensations. It's intense." I nodded, trying to ignore the flutter of anticipation that her words provoked. "I'm ready." We sat cross-legged, facing each other on the sleeping mat. Elori placed the neural interface between us, activating it with a sequence of commands. Small, wirelessly connected nodes adhered gently to our temples. "Close your eyes," she instructed softly. "Try to empty your mind. Don't resist what comes." As the connection established, I felt a strange doubling of perception. Still aware of my own body, but simultaneously experiencing a shadow of her physical sensations. Her breathing became synchronized with mine, our heartbeats gradually falling into rhythm. Then, like a dam breaking, memories began to flood through the connection. Not just visual recollections, but complete sensory experiences. Standing in this very temple 6 months ago, rain falling through the broken roof as Elori explained Project Mnemosyne for what felt like the first time, though she insisted it wasn't. The shock and rage I'd felt upon seeing my own childhood medical records, documenting neural restructuring procedures performed without parental consent, working together to access classified databases, using my technician credentials and her security clearances. The first time she'd shown me how to create memory anchors, emotional experiences so powerful they created neural pathways resistant to standard erasure techniques. The first time we'd kissed, hesitant and uncertain, both aware of the professional and ethical boundaries we were crossing, but unable to deny the connection that had formed through our shared mission. With each memory came accompanying emotions, sometimes overwhelming in their intensity. I gasped as particularly powerful ones surfaced. The first time we had used the neural interface, the vulnerability of allowing another consciousness to intermingle with my own. "That's it," Elori whispered, her voice seeming to come from both outside and inside my mind simultaneously. "Don't fight it. Let the memories integrate." Hours seemed to pass as the neural key worked to dissolve the artificial barriers in my mind. Some memories returned with crystal clarity. Others emerged fragmented and incomplete. Throughout it all, Elori's consciousness remained intertwined with mine, guiding, supporting, confirming. When the process finally concluded, the neural interface powered down automatically. I opened my eyes to find tears streaming down my face, matched by those on Elori's cheeks. "How much do you remember?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "Not everything," I admitted. "There are still gaps, but enough to know that you were telling the truth." I reached out, touching her face with trembling fingers. "I remember us." The connection between us remained strong even after the interface deactivated, an aftereffect of the shared consciousness. I could feel her relief, her affection, her exhaustion. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we get this information to the people who can use it." She gestured to the memory chip. "There's a network of former Project Mnemosyne subjects who've broken free of their conditioning. Scientists who can verify the data. Journalists willing to publish despite government pressure. They'll come after us," I said, the reality of our situation setting in. "Nyara and whoever she works for, yes, but they can't silence everyone." She took my hand. "And they can't erase what people choose to remember." I thought about the life I had built at Neurobright, the colleagues, the apartment, the routine. All of it constructed around a false identity, a manipulated consciousness. I had thought I was helping people by erasing traumatic memories. Instead, I had been an unwitting tool of control. "I don't even know who I really am," I murmured. "You're still you, Vaylen. The core of who you are wasn't created by them. It survived despite them." She squeezed my hand. "That's what they never understood about memory. It's not just information storage. It's identity. It's connection." As if to emphasize her point, another memory surfaced. Elori and me, standing on a balcony overlooking New Cascadia. Her words echoing in my mind. "They said you couldn't keep secrets if you loved me. They were wrong. I said that to you 3 days ago," she confirmed, picking up on my recollection through our lingering neural connection. "Right before I left for the mission that got me captured. You knew they might erase your memories of us. I knew they would try." Her smile held both sadness and triumph. "But some things can't be erased, Vaylen. What we feel for each other, it's written in more than just neural pathways. It's in how we respond to each other's touch, how our bodies remember even when our minds forget." To prove her point, she brushed her fingertips along my jawline. A simple gesture that sent a jolt of recognition through me. My body remembered this touch, craved it, even when my conscious mind had forgotten. I leaned forward, drawn by a need that transcended memory, and kissed her. Not as a stranger discovering something new, but as someone finding their way home after a long absence. Her lips were familiar, the way she sighed against my mouth, a sound I had heard before. When we separated, I saw in her amber eyes the same wonder I felt, the miracle of connection persisting beyond erasure. "We should leave at dawn," she said softly. "There's a transport meeting us that will take us to the movement's secure facility. What if they catch us? What if they erase our memories again? Then we'll find each other again." Her certainty was absolute. "As many times as it takes." I thought of all the times the cycle had apparently repeated, me forgetting, her reminding, us rediscovering each other. It seemed impossible, yet here we were. "I think I loved you before I remembered you," I confessed. "Yesterday, during the procedure, I felt something, a recognition that made no rational sense." "That's what they never understood about memory," she said. "It's not just in the mind. It's in the body, the heart, the soul, if you believe in such things." She intertwined her fingers with mine. "They can erase neural pathways, but they can't erase the imprint we leave on each other." Outside the temple, the night sounds of the ruins created a cocoon of white noise, water lapping against ancient structures, the distant hum of conservation drones, the rustle of vegetation reclaiming what humans had abandoned. Within this sanctuary of forgotten things, we found each other anew, mapping territories of touch and sensation that existed beyond the reach of those who would control what we remembered. Each caress was both discovery and remembrance. Each whispered word both new and familiar. Later, as we lay together on the sleeping mat, I watched the stars visible through the collapsed roof and contemplated the fragility and resilience of memory. "If they catch us," I said, "if they erase everything again, how will I find my way back to you?" Elori propped herself up on one elbow, her auburn hair falling in a curtain around us. "Do you remember the passage from the book? About memory creating the present?" I nodded. "That's how," she said simply. Even without specific memories, you'll still be you. The person who questions, who seeks truth, who feels drawn to the edges of things. Her finger traced the outline of my lips. And I'll be waiting there, at the edges, ready to remind you. Some memories can't be erased. I echoed her words from the memory lab. And some shouldn't be, she completed, settling her head on my chest. Dawn would bring new challenges, new dangers. But for now, in this temple where the past and present converged, we had created a memory that no technology could fully erase. A connection that existed in the geography of touch, in the architecture of shared breathing, in the landscape of two bodies finding their way home. Memory was indeed geography, I realized. And Elori Vashti was the place my heart had mapped itself to, again and again, despite every attempt to erase the path. The Memory Sovereignty Act passed by a narrow margin after 3 months of contentious debate. The public revelations about Project Mnemosyne had shocked the nation, leading to investigations, resignations, and finally, legislation. I watched the announcement from our safe house in what used to be northern Thailand, a remote community built by former subjects of memory manipulation experiments. Elori stood beside me, her fingers intertwined with mine. "They're calling it the most significant civil rights advancement of the century," said the news anchor, her expression appropriately solemn. "Effective immediately, all non-consensual memory erasure is prohibited, including those previously justified by national security concerns. Do you think it will hold?" I asked Elori as the broadcast continued. "Not without constant vigilance," she replied. "The technology still exists. The temptation to control what people remember will never disappear entirely." She was right, of course. Already, there were reports of black market memory services operating outside government oversight. The struggle would continue, evolving with the technology. But we had won a significant victory. Project Mnemosyne had been dismantled. Director Nyara and her superiors faced criminal charges. And most importantly, the thousands of people who had been subjected to unauthorized memory manipulation now had access to restoration services. Not everyone chose to recover their erased memories. Some preferred to move forward without looking back, finding peace in their present, rather than reclaiming a potentially painful past. It was a choice we had fought for, the right to determine one's own relationship with memory. My own memory restoration continued to progress. Each day brought new fragments, new connections. Some were disorienting or distressing, particularly those from my childhood during the neural restructuring procedures. But Elori remained my anchor, helping me contextualize each recovered memory within the larger narrative of my life. "They're requesting your testimony for the International Tribunal next month," Elori said, turning off the news feed. "Are you ready for that?" The thought of appearing publicly, of reliving those experiences for a global audience, sent a flutter of anxiety through me. But I nodded. "If it helps prevent this from happening to others, then yes." She smiled, the pride in her expression warming me. The boy who survived Project Mnemosyne became their best memory technician and ultimately brought them down. It's poetic justice. "We brought them down," I corrected. "I would still be erasing memories at Neurobright if not for you." "If not for us," she countered. "For whatever bond existed between us that proved stronger than their technology." I pulled her close, breathing in the scent that my body had recognized even when my mind could not. "Do you ever wonder how many times we went through the cycle? How many times they erased me and you had to start over? Does it matter?" She traced the now familiar path along my jawline with her fingertips. "We found our way back each time. We remembered what mattered. Outside our window, the mountains met the sky in a jagged line of possibility. Beyond them lay an uncertain future, one where memory remained a contested territory, where the right to remember would require constant defense. But here, in this moment, I was whole in a way I had never been before. Remembering, known, loved not despite the fractured landscape of my mind, but because of the person who had emerged from those broken places. They had sent me to erase her memory, but she had remembered my touch. And in doing so, she had taught me the most important truth about memory. That it lives not just in neural pathways, but in the spaces between people, in trust built and rebuilt, in connections formed and reformed, in love that recognizes itself even in the absence of remembering. Some memories truly couldn't be erased. And for that, I was immeasurably grateful. The end.